Good morning and welcome to Biosphere 2 Live. My name is John Adams. I'm Deputy Director at this amazing facility, and I've had the good fortune of working here for now over 20 years. Biosphere has had an amazing 30-year history, but before we get into that, this is one of our first live posts that we're going to have on Facebook, and joining me today is Katie Morgan and Dr. Diane Thompson. They're going to be monitoring the post, so as we go through and some of the things that I comment on or mention or we discuss and you'd like to know more about or you have a specific question, please don't hesitate to post those. We'll do the best that we can to answer them during this live post, but then we will follow up with responses to those that we're not able to do so. So getting back to Biosphere, today is a very important milestone in its history. Today marks the 25th anniversary that first group of 8 people exited Biosphere 2. But going back, Biosphere has really had an amazing 30-year history, starting with its construction in 1987. It was concluded in 1991, and I think that's when most of us began to hear about Biosphere 2 through the popular media with these 8 people who were going to be sealed inside. Now, many people ask, well, where is Biosphere 1? And so the idea behind Biosphere 2 was to recreate those systems that you find on Earth, which is Biosphere 1, to have a better and more refined understanding of how those systems interact and function with one another. So they began on a journey. Now, it was twofold. The other idea that we often hear about in the popular media is this idea of space colonization, much like what you hear about today with these various companies who are looking at getting tourism into space and then ultimately deploying and having people land on the moon, colonize it, as well as people to Mars. But before we got there, one of the founding principles behind Biosphere 2 was a better understanding of Earth's systems. And that better understanding, one of the co-founders hoped, would lead to us being better stewards of Earth as itself. So you think about Biosphere 2 and you think about its relevancy in science. Biosphere 2 to the Earth sciences is the same thing that an accelerator is to physicists or telescopes are to astronomers. Physicists want to understand that fundamental building block, what makes up an atom. Astronomers want to look to the ends of the universe. We've never had an equivalent tool until Biosphere 2 to understand Earth systems. And as much as we like to romanticize about traveling into space, the likelihood that I'm going to travel into space, my daughter, her children, in any large numbers, I think is very small. So understanding Earth systems, how these systems are going to change, how those changes are going to impact the resources that we are so valuable and so dependent on are crucial. Biosphere 2 is an important piece to that puzzle. And it was 30 years ago that people realized this and began to build the structure. Now a little bit about Biosphere. Biosphere covers a little over 3 acres. It is nearly 7.2 million cubic feet, and that's a lot. I know people ask me, well, how big is that? That's equivalent to almost 82 Olympic-sized pools and their volume or their water if you filled up Biosphere 2. It's almost 3 football fields in length, and that long portion of Biosphere has the biomes. And this is what Biosphere is so notably recognized for. Those biomes on the north end consist of a rainforest. As we work our way to the south, we have an ocean, a savanna, a marsh, a desert, and then on the far end, often people ask, well, what is that geodesic dome or that structure? That's not a biome, but that was a remarkable engineering structure that was designed to help regulate pressure inside Biosphere. And I'll talk about pressure regulation here in a minute. So when they sealed Biosphere 2, they achieved a remarkable engineering and little leak rate. And what I mean by that is what you can't see, and what's so notable about Biosphere above ground is equally notable below. And that's a 500-ton stainless steel liner that lines every part of Biosphere and isolates it from the Sonoran Desert here. And by doing so, and then overhead, and what you can see behind me are these white panes. What's also noticeable about Biosphere is the glass component of it, but everything is sealed in with a material that was made by Dow Corning. That material and that caulking of those joints, this stainless steel liner combined allowed for only a 10% loss of volume, 10% loss of that 7.2 million cubic feet of air. That's a leak rate that's less or about the size of my pinky, and it's less than the International Space Station. For those of you who are just joining us, my name is John Adams. I'm Deputy Director here at Biosphere 2, and we're talking a little bit about the amazing 30-year history of Biosphere. Now, with that leak rate, one of the things and one of the challenges that they face is that there was little to no exchange with the outside. That was by design. But oftentimes when people talk about this first mission of Biosphere, I often hear about it referred to as it failed. There's no such thing as a failure. Experiments never fail, and in fact, we learn more from those who happen contrary to what we hypothesized than those that happen as we had originally anticipated. What had happened inside Biosphere, and most notably, is oxygen was decreasing, carbon dioxide was increasing. The difference was they were not happening at relatively the same rate, and they should have been, at least according to some of the scientists' calculation. This is when they got some folks involved from Columbia University, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Wally Broker and a graduate student of his, Jeff Severinghaus. And they were able to unravel this mystery because as the concrete, which makes up a significant part of the infrastructure of Biosphere 2, was drying, the CO2 was reacting with that. And a portion of that carbon dioxide was being bound there. And that binding held it and allowed them to not balance their equation as they originally anticipated until they calculated for that. Well, it was this ability to trace essentially every molecule that was the light bulb moment for the scientific community in particular. They recognized the unique opportunity to use Biosphere 2 and this entire system to trace fundamental processes and understand those feedbacks that happen as you manipulate conditions at an unprecedented scale. And Biosphere is exactly that. It's a scaled up version of Earth. It's not an exact or perfect replica by any means, but it allows us at a larger scale than we have access to in a traditional laboratory, but yet we don't have control of outside to do experiments. So inside Biosphere 2, what we can do today is we can manipulate temperature, carbon dioxide. We can manipulate the types of chemicals in the atmosphere to look at how systems respond. And those lead us to exciting opportunities to address these challenges and questions that we have today as to how our planet is changing and how those changes are going to impact our systems. That original group of people were remarkable in their engineering, their ingenuity, and their ability to actually build Biosphere. And one of the big things for them that happened inside was not only the CO2 and oxygen, but also the fact that they couldn't produce enough calories for their existence. And that was in the agricultural area. Right behind me, just beyond that white area, you may be able to see these glass arches. Those arches are where they formerly grew their agricultural crops. Remember, Biosphere is a little over 3 acres. About a half acre of that space was dedicated to agricultural practices. And although they were successful in growing their food and doing a very good job, just wasn't quite enough calories for those 8 people who were sealed inside. But it gave an opportunity to learn a tremendous amount. Now today, that space is no longer used for agricultural practices, but it's used by the University of Arizona, and it's our institutional experiment. It's called LEO, the Landscape Evolution Observatory. And inside Biosphere, in this system, we are now addressing and trying to understand, it rains in the mountains, how much water ends up downstream for you and I to use, and what impacts the quality of that water as we have land use change. Whether that land change is the result of a fire, maybe the vegetation is changing, maybe we repurpose certain areas. This particular space is giving hydrologists and ecologists a really unique opportunity because it's the world's largest earth science experiment. And you're going to hear more about that in future posts. Additionally, we're doing research in the rainforest, and you're going to hear more from our rainforest team of what they're doing in there. And we're also very excited about the ocean system. And you're going to hear more about how we're transforming this system to realize a next generation of experiments. We hope to bring to you through these various Facebook Lives in the coming weeks and months an opportunity to explore Biosphere 2 with us and hear from our team as to what they're doing and how they're using this unique facility. So if you have any comments, we'd love to open that up, answer any questions that you may think of, any urban legends that you've heard. There's a lot of them out there that we oftentimes get asked here at Biosphere 2, and we're happy to answer any of those. Well, great. Well, one of the things we'd like to also open up is our website is a great resource for all of those who are looking to learn more about Biosphere 2. And we've actually constructed and created a course. It's a massive online course, a MOOC, that you can learn more about Biosphere 2 from a number of experts, and there is a link to that directly on our page. So we encourage you. Our website is www.biosphere2, and that's the number 2.org. Great, so a great question. So Suzanne asked, what are the opportunities for folks to come and work at Biosphere 2, specifically adults? So we have a number of opportunities, both paid as well as volunteer opportunities. And they span really the spectrum. One of the important things and really valuable things that we cherish here at Biosphere 2 is the visitors who come through every day. And so we have opportunities for folks to lead tours, to interact with our guests. Our science team, as it continues to grow and expand, are always looking for individuals who can help with different types of measurements, helping with data recording, or other types of activities in the systems. And so these opportunities are available, and I encourage you to go to our website. There are contact information there, and we're happy to speak with you specifically based on your interests. Great, thank you. Until next time, Biosphere 2 Live.